In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to beautifully and easily create with Revolution Slider, also known as Slider Revolution. This image slider comes pre-packaged with some themes like the Virtue Premium theme, which will be our demo theme today. And it also comes with the X theme, a popular theme of the year, and probably some more. But you can also just download it from the Envato Marketplace for a fee of $19. If you go this route, most WordPress themes will accept the Revolution slider. You'll just have to figure out where to put it, and you'll have to make sure to download it, pay for it of course, and then open up the zip file by double clicking it, and then you'll just have to upload the revslider.zip file and not the entire .zip that you download. Speaking of where to put Revolution Slider, this slider can go in your theme options. As we'll see here, we have a section for slider settings, and we can choose one of many sliders in the Virtue Premium theme. However, the Revolution slider might also go in your new page or new post editor. In this case, we're in X theme, and we can put in the slider in this window above the header or below the header. The slider can also be inserted through a shortcode. We get a shortcode like this one right here with an open bracket and a closed bracket once we create a slider, and then you can just copy paste this wherever you want on your website or blog. Obviously, where you decide to put your slider will be a combination of what's easy and what you think looks good. Because Revolution Slider is so awesome, it has been updated recently to version 5.0. And that means that some of us might be using the older slider and some of us might be using the new slider. For example, if you download it right here from Envato, you'll get the newest slider, and you'll also get access to updates like I do. And if you have it in your theme, then it might be an older version. So we'll start creating a slider with some awesome features in the older version, and then we'll check out what's new in the new version. Again, really cool. It's the most selling slider and has a really good review, so this is going to be fun. What we're going to learn how to create in the older version is these large images which fill the entire screen. I'm going to show you how to create that fly-in text at the very end, which we can style with different fonts and colors too. I'm going to show you how to make everything responsive so that your image sliders will look good on the mobile devices like the iPad or any sort of phones that your users are reading from. Everything will resize accordingly. And that's pretty cool. So we can see the slider on a huge desktop will automatically resize, and I know a lot of people want to know how to do that, because still nowadays a lot of the website users we have are using desktops or laptops. Alright, so let's dive into a slider I've already created, which is right here, and see how it all works. And this is the older version of Revolution Slider, which according to my plugins is version 4.65. Alright, so if you're using 4.65, this should work perfectly, and if you're using a slightly older or slightly newer version, you should be just fine. We're not going to cover everything Revolution Slider has to offer, but we're definitely going to get you a good foundation and something that looks great. Let's open up my Revolution slider called Home Slider. Very semantic name. And then let's just click this link. If we clicked on the settings button, it would take us to the same page, which is the Edit Slider homepage. And I want to start off with the title. You're going to need a slider title, and that should usually translate into the short code. Alright, and the alias will also translate into the slider shortcode, which you can paste to have the slider show up once you're done with it. Now, the easiest and quickest way to get a full screen slider like this is just to use big images and generally keep the settings as they are when you first open this screen. So those would be gallery, auto responsive, unlimited height off, force full width off, and the grid width of 960 with the grid height of 800 pixels. That should be how the screen opens up for you. If it's not, then go ahead and plug those in, and then we can just be on the same page. Alright, I'm assuming yours will also have a delay of 9,000 up here, which just means that it takes exactly 9 seconds from when someone lands on your homepage and sees one slide until they see the next slide. And you can see that gray bar right under my mouse counting out 9 seconds. It's pretty cool. If I actually put my mouse over this slide, I have it on pause. And then if I remove the mouse, then it'll keep going. There it goes again, so that will count out the amount of milliseconds you have here. Alright, milliseconds, so 9,000 milliseconds would be 9 seconds. And generally we're going to be counting in milliseconds, so it's good to get used to that. So what we have now is a very basic understanding of the main slider settings and the general settings. And I'm going to jump over to edit slides because this is where we insert images. And you can see the images I've chosen and more importantly how large they are. To check out an image or replace it, just click on the image itself. It says click to change, and then we can see the image that I had selected and the details on the right. The first main point I need to stress is that it is so important you choose images of the same size for your slider and large images. If you just go ahead and upload one photo and then another photo and then a third photo, you look good and they're all different dimensions, it's going to be very tough to get your slider to look professional because the sizes and the clarity of the images will look off and things might look blurry. What I've done is hold the slider images consistent at 1600 by 800 pixels. 1600 would of course be the width, and I'm only using 3 images, which honestly is a pretty reasonable number. If I would have put this coffee shirt in there, it might throw everything off. And if I put an even smaller image in there, like this funny mug, then either the image would look really small or it would look really blurry because the slider would try to enlarge it. So keep your image sizes consistent. If you need to find large images, just go to Google Images, search for whatever it is you want, and then once you're here, you can open up the search tools and find large images, just like that. Alright, you should also go for labeled for reuse. If you need to resize an image, like one that's labeled for reuse from Wikipedia, you can just go to pixlr.com and handle everything right here. Just launch the web app for the editor and then open the image from your computer, and then you can resize it to the right width and height, whatever it is that you want. Alright, we have my 3 slides and they're all the same size, which is very important. Clicking the green button, we go back to the main slider settings, and we can see that the grid width and the grid height are going to be equal to or less than our image size. And that means that the whole image will be able to show up. It's kind of like if you have a small window frame and a large background outside the window. When you look through the window frame, you'll be able to see the entire background. Alright, changing the slider layout here might be important if you have very advanced needs. If you want your image in a fixed location on the screen, like off to the side or something like that, this might help. The custom layout is for creating a responsive slider, meaning you can choose several different sizes for your slider based on what screen size you have. So it provides us with 6 different screen widths, and 3 of which aren't even being used. And that's because we can just click auto responsive, and then the slider will know to go to the edges of our page, and it will size to the height we choose right here. If I were to change my grid height to 400 and save settings, we can see how when we refresh, we get a lot less slider. Alright? Which could be helpful depending on how you want your site to look. And actually, I think this looks not bad. The only problem is that the background image is way too big, and we only see this leaf of the palm tree. Well, 2 leaves. Alright, so that's where messing with the grid height can come in handy if you have the auto-responsive slider layout. If you have the full screen layout instead, then you're going to get a different set of selections. And if you save changes and refresh, then our slider will just be much bigger in the height department, and it'll also end up wider in the width department, but I don't want to pull this browser any wider because we have the camera on this width. Alright, again, I recommend auto-responsive with these criteria in right here for a quick and beautiful result. And easy. Alright, the next thing I want to show you in this slider revolution slider, same thing, 4.5 version, is how to put in the arrows and how to put in the shadow. You will find that over in appearance. Alright, so here we can choose a number of different shadow presets depending on what you like. Save those settings and we can see that right away we'll have a different sort of shadow pop-out effect. You might have thought this was really tricky for web developers, but it's actually just that easy. If you wanted, you could also choose a padding, which would create spacing around the edges of the slider. And then you could have a background color right here that would create a border, because the space would be there and there would be color right along the edges of the background. Alright, that would be how to create a border. Now if we close appearance and go to navigation, we have several options for how to move our slides manually. The stop on hover feature is what I showed you, where you can hover and this little gray line will stop moving and you'll be able to stay on one side. And I'd have keyboard navigation off, but that could be on. And then there's several options for how we basically control our slides with the keyboard. Alright, so let's see what happens when I choose those bullets and then click Save Settings and refresh. Nothing happened. We still just have our arrows. Oh, but at the bottom we now have this little 3-dot feature if you hover over it, which I don't really like anyways, so I'm just gonna say none to the bullets. Say no. You can see that little section here will close then, and then we have our left arrow criteria and our right arrow criteria with the location of the arrow, the center of it, meaning that the arrow is centered on the slider and not up here or down here. And then, of course, also the horizontal offset, meaning there's 20 pixels in between both the left arrow and the right arrow and the side of our browser. That 20 pixels is this little space right here. So if I wanted something like arrows that were closer to the center of the page, I could just save, refresh, and then the arrow buttons are a little bit closer towards the middle of the page. So that's pretty awesome. Alright, at the moment I consider a lot of these other settings to be more advanced features that aren't necessarily required, but it is fun to play around with if you have some spare time. You can get yourself a spinner which will sit in the middle of the slider, or even learn how to create a parallax effect, which you might have seen before, but is really for another tutorial. Alright, at this point we've learned how to create these large image slides, which are awesome. We've learned how to put some other details on our slider, like the arrows and the shadow, and how to change their positions. And we've also learned how to make our slider responsive. So at this point, if we refresh our ScreenFly, things will automatically adjust to our devices and our readers' devices. And that's all because we have the auto-responsive slider layout checked. So for our fourth little demo trick here, let's go ahead and look at how to put that text on the slides, because I know a lot of folks have been wondering about that. Alright, let's do it. I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the text on slide 1, and then we'll create that effect on slide 2 or 3, either one. Alright, so let's go to Edit Slides, and I'll show you how that was done. Let's click on Edit Slide. And we have some very basic slide settings, which I really didn't change much. I did change the transition to a simple fade, because there are tons of interesting transitions that you might like, but I kind of think distract the reader. So I changed this to a very simple fade right there. And I left these criteria the same. I just made the transition duration take 300 milliseconds, so that's how long it takes for the slide to fade out to the next slide. Alright, I left these other criteria the same, although they can be useful for advanced sliders. And our text can be found at the bottom, right here. And the text is created by clicking Add Layer. Basically what you do is add a layer, and then you get this caption text which you want to overwrite. And you're going to say something awesome about your company, like "We rock." Alright, once you do that, you'll actually see that text. Just click on the side to refresh. You'll see it over your image, and you can drag it around. I went ahead and centered the "Wake Up To" and "Delicious Coffee" by clicking on the layer and then aligning it with this square. So by doing that, we can see I'm actually moving our little "We Rock" sign up there. There it is in the middle, the right, the middle. Alright. That text can be changed stylistically by clicking the Style button and choosing the different preset styles, which really are enough, in my opinion. Not sure how that got over there, but let's get that thing back in the center. Alright. And then I actually went ahead and changed the height by keeping this criteria the same and just offsetting it by something like 100. So if you do that, the text block will just move straight down, or straight up if you choose a negative number, like that. Alright, that's pretty awesome, and that's how to put text on the slide. Alright, and if you want, you can change the let's get that text below. If you want, you can change the style just by editing one of these presets. Like maybe you have the large bold gray and it's not good enough for you, so you want to click Edit, and then you can change how it looks in your example up here on the transparent background by making it maybe bigger, or even a different color in the color wheel. You can see this really is versatile and gives you a lot of creativity and a lot of options. And then once you have a new style, you can save change, and it'll ask you if you want to save as for a new style, just as if you were saving as on a Word document. You create a new document, or you can just save over the existing style, and then that should eventually work. So what happened there? We had the magenta, we save change. So if you click on save, it'll ask you, really, do you want to overwrite the class? And that would mean overwriting what large bold gray means, which you might have to think about if you actually really liked large bold gray as a preset. And so I would normally say cancel and just save as and create my new font, like large bold pink. Oops. By doing that and clicking save as new, you can actually create your very own style set for the layer content, and then you can use it as much as you want. That's pretty awesome, and it will just sit right in this list somewhere right there. Alright, that's pretty cool. Alright, so if we went ahead and just updated the slide like that, we have this 3 different layers of text, and then back on our home page we see that it comes in pretty decently, but we still don't really know how to get the text to enter in. So how do we do that? The way we do that is by manipulating a few things. First off, we want to change the start and the end time of our layers, meaning when they appear and when they exit. Alright, so what I have for Wake Up To and Delicious Coffee are 2 different start times and an end time of the same time, which is before the 9,000 millisecond duration of this slide. In other words, if the start time were 0, then Wake Up To would appear right when you saw the slide, but because the start time is 500 milliseconds, Wake Up To comes in exactly half a second after you see this background. And then Delicious Coffee comes in exactly 0.85 seconds or 850 milliseconds after you see this slide. And they come in from different directions because they have different layer animations down here. See how we see that example? Now I know this could all be really confusing, so let's walk through setting this all up on a new slide. Like we said. Let's go to the slide list. Let's click on the coffee bean slide. Let's click on edit slide. And now let's go ahead and create some layer text. Alright, we first need to add a layer. And we need to write something for the top text. So maybe we'll say, welcome to my store. And then we need another layer. And maybe we'll say, feel free to look around. Alright, so now we have 2 different types of text. And I'm going to change the style, which we covered just a second ago. And because our background is darker, I want a large bold white, and I want a large white BG. And there they are. So that's pretty cool. If I want, I can just click on each one and drag it to where I think might look good. So maybe something like that with a slight left-hand offset. And once you're working in this screen, you'll often have to just click on a layer to get it to appear with the details below. Alright, so now welcome to my store is offset this much, and feel free to look around is offset this much. Both have a no wrap, which I want you to keep, and if you have any questions about that, let me know in the comments, because some cases you'll want to change this setting, but usually keep no wrap, and keep these max width and max height at auto. Alright, so just by doing that, let's update our slide and let's see how it looks on the site. We want to look at the third slide. That's pretty cool. Our text just appears like that. Alright. Let's go ahead and open up layer animation, and we see that the fade is already set for welcome to my store. I have a fade. So that looks pretty good. But what if I wanted to fly in from the left or the right? For that, I would choose either short from left or long from left, or skew from short left or skew from long left, which makes the layer do something slightly different. Kind of hard to tell. Moving down, the start duration is important because that means that it takes 300 milliseconds for this whole animation to start. So that's 300 milliseconds, that little boom. If this were 3000, that would take a lot longer. Let's leave these criteria unchanged, and let's see how it ends. So I actually want this animation to go out to the right, and I'll just go with skew to right. So that way our animation comes in from the left and goes out to the right, which is awesome. Alright, no need for these at the moment. We don't want any advanced params. But we do want to set the animation for the other text layer. Alright, so let's just select it over here in our layer timing and sorting. And no need to press these little thingamajiggers, but you could if you want to lock the layer or hide it. And then let's click on layer animation, and let's do exactly the opposite of what we had for our first layer, which was skew from long left and skew to right. So now I want skew from long right, and I want skew to left. And we'll see what happens when we do that. Alright, so keep the end duration at 300 for both of them. We don't want the timing to be too crazy, although that could be fun also. And let's check out our slide. Click the arrow once, third slide, and we now have a fly-in text, which is cool. We have 2 layers of fly-in text. Let's watch when the slide finishes doing what it's doing. Alright, so it looks like we have that fly-in text, and it flies in right when we choose the slide, the third slide, and flies out right when we say go to the next slide, which is cool. Things are working. Now if we go back to our revolution slider and keep our layer animation the same, we can actually play around with how the start time and the end time of the animation work. Alright, so the end time is going to be the same as the slider duration, which is in the slider settings, general settings. This number 9000 will match the previous number we saw on our layer. But maybe we want the text to go out a little bit before the whole slide goes out. So we can make that 8000 and make this one maybe 8500. And what if we want welcome to my store to be seen before feel free to look around is seen by your user, so that someone is able to digest each message separately? Well, to do that, we could change the start times to maybe 650 and then maybe 950, both still under a second, but let's see if we can notice that difference when we look at the slide. Alright, second slide, and get ready for that third slide. Now we have one message appearing before the second one, which I think is pretty cool. And on the exit, because we chose different end times for our animation, the welcome to my store layer goes out a little bit before the feel free to look around. Alright, so this one stays around for 8,000 milliseconds. This one stays on for 8,500 milliseconds, and they start at a different time. That is how that works. Let's see that one more time. And so, of course, if we use the arrows to change the slide, it actually might just set the exit time to the same thing because it quickly wants to get to the next slide when we press the arrows. Alright, that about does it for the features I want to show you in the older version of Revolution Slider, which is not that old because I'm still using it. And the last thing we could look at is maybe even how to create a link on one of these. Alright, so to create a link, what I would recommend is just pasting the HTML for a link into the layer content, which you could get from any sort of post or page editor, or just write in like this. We'll set the target to blank so a new window opens. Close off that tag, and then by doing that and by updating the slide, then you could create a really cool link. Comes in a different color because that's how the style is on this slider. You can change that too, of course, but you now have a clickable piece of text on top of the slider. Alright, so that's awesome. You can also change the layer animation. Alright, so you might want the no split to be character based instead, and then the characters should sort of just line themselves up one by one. It's kind of cool on the first entry, the first layer that comes in, and then maybe you want it to take a little bit longer, like say 500 milliseconds. We can update the slide, refresh, and now we'll have created one more effect, which is that cool kind of spell it out character lineup like that. We can see that one more time. And there you go. I might want to delay this a little bit more than while this spelled itself out, but you get the picture. There are millions of different combinations you could create in your Revolution slider, and you can create more backgrounds or colors for virtually anything, and fonts. So enjoy. Alright guys, last but definitely not least, I want to go over the newest version of Revolution Slider, version 5. I believe, maybe 5.05. We'll call it 5.0, and I think you're gonna like what you see. This is the first image slider on WordPress or any other CMS where I've learned how to put a video in the background that auto plays, where you can insert beautiful text or buttons or input forms or links on top of it and have that be the first thing a user sees. This slider also comes with all the basics like image backgrounds and text transitions, all sorts of fonts as well. And another cool feature is, in this tutorial we're going to work on creating a fave icon also known as I just shut up right there so you could hear the video embed that we put over an image and can represent some more information about your blog or yourself or your company. Alright, so I'll just leave you on this slide right here while I talk for a bit because I think some folks might want to watch that. It's pretty cute. So we're on this demo site now. It's a different site than we played with the old version of Revolution Slider on. I don't know why my browser is being so slow. Right, so this is the slider we tweaked in the first part of the video, which is on this demo site, which is actually still helping people from a e-commerce video I made for YouTube, and I want to keep this one intact. Alright, so what we did was we just put a slider on another demo site right here. This site, oh, there it goes. Oh, just so happens to host the Virtue Premium theme, which comes with Revolution Slider pre-packaged. So all I needed to do is just install it, and it was included in the theme price. But if your theme doesn't include it, you can just download it from the CodeCanyon.net Envato marketplace, and when you download it, make sure that you just download the installable WordPress file only for the easiest possible install. Alright, so let's go see how this slider works. If we're on the home page, we can just click Slider Revolution and it'll take us to the slide editor, which already looks different, and there's a whole update history which I didn't bother reading because I was so excited to start playing around. To start playing around, we can just click the new slide, and here we have a slider featuring three different slides, three very different slides. What I'm going to do is just recreate them so you know exactly how these features work. It won't be all the features, and I'm sorry about that, but it will be enough to get these three things going that we just saw. And there's our leopard again. Alright. So we're going to click create a new slider here, just this plus button first. And before we do that, I should say that I have some slider settings set up, like default slider. I've given us a name called new home slider, a alias called slider5, which goes in our shortcode. I've chosen the standard slider, and then that let me choose the full screen layout, which means that a user sees an entire image. See that image fill in on the potential iPhone? The user sees the entire image and nothing else instead of some text too, and then they just need to scroll down to see the rest of the site. So I really love that feature. Alright, we can go to the slides just by clicking Slide Editor tab at the top. And by the way, the general settings should operate the same as the previous version. Let's click the plus button and add a blank slide. And we see we get the brand new slide editor window, which looks really confusing like most new technologies do. Alright, and let's get the basics out of the way. To put an image slide in the background, we just have to check main background image and then click change image and then choose an image. And then it comes in right there. To put some text on top, we have to click add new layer, text HTML, and then write in some awesome stuff. And it gives us a font and a black color already, and a font size. We can change all of that up here. Maybe we want the font size to be smaller, and we want the font to be different. So I'm going to change it to Arial, which pre-populates because the slider has gotten smarter. And we can change the font color to maybe, geez, it'd be nice if that little pen dropper, oh, there it is. Come on, let's get that. Looks like we got to use the color wheel here, so I'm just going to change it to something like a bluish, which could match the slide, I guess. You can put as many layers in as you want, like another text layer or a video or a button. And I like the buttons a lot, so let's try a cool little click here button. Alright, and then let's see what happens with this button, okay? I'm gonna get a hold of that button if I can by double clicking it. Shows us the code, which we don't want. I actually just want to learn about the button. How do I do that? Whoa. So we can see here by clicking the A button and then the waffle button that we can choose any number of icons for a button, which come in the hover state. How about that? And then we would have to whoa, I am way over my head now. Alright, so we're gonna have to play around with this button, and I'm actually gonna delete it. And then choose a new button. Alright. And then I'm just gonna try to change the text right here, like something like get started. And then they all change to get started, and then we can choose that same button as well as its hover state features and its idle state features. Alright, so it looks like all the buttons inherit the features, and then we can just put it in by double clicking. Alright, so play around with that. That's pretty cool. And we can go ahead and save our slide by hovering on the green icon, and it just tells us it's working for a second. It's a little cute face with the coffee cup, which I of course am in love with. And we can also change the duration and the entrance of our items down here. So let's say we wanted someone to see something about us before the button. We can drag it and we can change how long it takes to appear using this click and drag feature. And then we can play this slide. Let's actually play it again and let's see what happens. Text, button, and then the distance between these two little square circles will determine how long the button takes to actually show up. Alright, I'm loving it. Hope you are too. And let's go see our slider. Alright, but before we do that, I'm going to refresh so this little picture comes in. And then I'm going to make that our first slide by just dragging it. I hope I can drag it. There we go. And I'm going to trash our first slide. Alright, so let's see what we just made. Let's refresh our site. And of course, that's pretty cool, but you're going to want to play with the colors and also the text position to make sure that your slide looks as amazing as possible. Okay, now moving to the second option, I'm just going to add another blank slide. And we can add a main background image by choosing it in our media library, which is a lot like you choose an image for a post or a page. And we can add a new layer for a video. So we know how to add a text HTML layer and a button layer. Let's add that video. And then let's just get a video from our YouTube library where you're going every day to learn about WordPress. And we actually just need the code, the video ID code, which is after the equals sign. So we can copy that and then we can pull it back to the video layout and search, and then it comes in. And then we can go ahead and also change some other features, for example, like the autoplay. so it will play automatically when the slide appears. Alright, add this video, and there we have it. We can just drag it around or use the nice features like here to center it, and then also change the width and the height pretty easily. Alright, so let's save it, and now let's go see what we made. But let's drag it first to slide 2, and let's delete its predecessor. Alright, and save and demo. Alright, there's our first slide. Needs a little work. In this tutorial, we're going to work on creating a favicon. And there's your embedded video over an image which could talk about you or your company or your team or your latest product or something like that. To set up the cool video background with text over it, which by the way I've had people ask me how to do, and I've had a few people reference sites that are already on the web which are cool, like this one called Dissolve. So I've had people ask me how to set up this sort of background image with the overlay text, and I didn't know how to do it, and I really don't like telling people I don't know how to do something. It's one of my pet peeves. So I'm proud to say that with a little bit of work, and it might be tricky, but I think it's possible, we can do this now. So let's take a look. We need to go back to Slider Revolution, and we need to open up our slider, and we need a new slide. We can add a blank slide, and instead of the main background image, we want a YouTube video. And I need to just go to YouTube now and search for something cool that never goes out of style, like snow leopards. Open the video. This video is outstanding, by the way, especially with the music and the commentary. And then let's get our ID and paste it in. Alright, so just doing that and saving the slide will tell us we need a cover image. And that's one thing I don't love, because you have to now choose a cover image that represents the video, which I will leave up to you because I'm too lazy to do that right now. We'll just choose the islands from before, and now let's put some text in to make it special. Alright, let's put some text in about the snow leopards. So something like that. And let's make it white so it appears on the video. And let's save it. And then go move it into the fourth position and delete its predecessor. And finally save again, which you're going to be doing a lot as you build these sliders. Alright, now let's see what we made. Slide 1, slide 2, and that cover image, and then the cool embedded video of snow leopards hunting the mountain goats. Alright, so that's just a little bit of what you can do with the new version of Revolution Slider. As more versions come out, they will of course have more features, but right now we're sitting on millions and millions of possibilities, which I think is just fantastic. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'm gonna go outside and go for a walk, but I'll see you guys next time. Alright, I hope I don't see this snow leopard while I'm outside.